He made a little boat and came down the river. Oiwa kasapi holadin ak atlas. She wanders in cold blue water. Tie up your feet, he said. I tied up my feet. I said, this is the place where the girl drew water. Hokti uiwa, oyamochkazan aksomgis. The woman disappears into darkening water. My uncle in those days was cattle king. He died from gangrene crossing the verdigris. Water was everywhere. Oiwa laogadis, oiwa hamajajadis. Water didn't know what to do.
We are a state of contradictions with regard to water. As Texans, we show great pride in our heritage, our people, our bountiful natural resources, and our increasingly diverse economy, and we generally foresee a bright future for our great state. Water has been a key to our success as a state, and it is critical for our future. Unfortunately, Texas in many ways is failing to meet the basic definition of sustainable water management. Management that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Education and conservation research shows most Texans do not know where their water comes from, nor do they practice water conservation.
An average Texan uses about 100 gallons per capita daily. That is a number that's averaged over the entire year. A normal or an average Texan, of course, uses a lot more in the summer because they got the sprinklers running, they're watering the gardens, than they do during the winter. But if you average that over the whole year, it's about 100 gallons per person per day.
The challenge is how best to reach 28 million Texans and provide them with the information and tools needed to effectively change water usage and conserve water.
I would like to see the state of Texas do a water education program like they did the littering program. Don't mess with Texas, and it's unlawful to litter with offal in large, just some of that where it is across the board. We will no longer be able to sustain our lifestyle and the way we live in Texas as the population growth continues unless people get serious about addressing having a sustainable water system in place for the entire state.
The state water education program, Water IQ, Know Your Water, was developed in 2004, but this program has never been fully funded.
The Water Board has a stakeholder group called the Water Conservation Advisory Committee, and they've developed an excellent educational program called Water IQ. The legislature asked them to create such a plan, and now the legislature will not fund it.
It's really not education on whether or not we need water. It's education on how much water is going to cost.
They see their water bill, but do they really get that they're paying $3, $4 for 1,000 gallons of water? So they're paying, less than a half a cent for a jug of water, for a gallon of water.
People think it's their constitutional right to have low water bills.
Some suburban areas especially have extreme high per capita water use, particularly from water used for outdoor landscaping in the hottest months of the year.
We've developed these level of expectations that are going to be very difficult for us to change over time. What a lawn should look like. It should have St. Augustine, automated irrigation system. We need to do more to start changing some of those attitudes.
While it is true that overall per capita water use in Texas has been decreasing, it remains fairly high compared to what some water utilities in the state have achieved.
It's just a real challenge to communicate to elected officials and then the public the value of the water in the first place.
Our focus here is primarily on what is termed municipal water conservation, or water used by individuals, businesses, and industries that is provided by a retail or wholesale water provider rather than from non-municipal wells, river diversions, or lakes, because to some extent it is the low-hanging fruit. There is good news and bad news regarding water conservation efforts in Texas. Ironically, in some respects, the good news and the bad news are the same news.
We're blessed in Texas with very wet parts of the state and dry parts. But at any given time, even in a drought, it's such a big state that some places are going to be not in drought or not a severe drought. If we could treat the bucket of water as Texas, and we could move it and store it and share it, we wouldn't have the problems that we do.
For example, Texas has been ranked by the National Alliance for Water Efficiency as one of the top 2 states in the country, California being the other, in terms of state-level laws and policies related to water efficiency and conservation.
I think Texas is a great opportunity to be the leader, global leader in bringing technologies for water and wastewater, all the way from engineering technologies, biological technologies, reuse technologies. And I think we can really, along with our booming biotechnology industry and our petroleum industry, I think we can be at forefront globally to the water technologies.
Unfortunately, in part, that may be a reflection of how little most other states have done in promoting efficient use of water.
In 2010, 11, 12, water conservation wasn't a problem. We had drought contingency programs in place, and people were voluntarily conserving water because they knew there was a drought. All they had to do was watch the news. This year, not so much. We're running 10 inches ahead of our annual rainfall. We've had 2 major floods in the last 13 months. We just finished having a record flood, the highest level of water in Brazos in Richmond, Texas, in over 100 years. And we're just starting the recovery of that.
Conservation, to me, this is a long-term strategy.
The need for a well-funded, well-coordinated education program in the state. I mean, there's a lot of education going on. Water Development Board has one, AgriLife Extension, all of the municipalities and water districts and groundwater districts, everybody has a small program, but we do not have a large, well-coordinated program like we need for the state. And that's how we're going to get people to pay for it, and that's how we're going to get people to conserve, is through education. So
when we try to talk about conservation, we run headlong over and over and over into short-term thinking. I've got council members that think about the next election, but not very far beyond that.
In fact, our state initiatives have not come close to achieving the maximum potential for water conservation statewide. Efforts by the state of Texas to achieve more efficient use of water have traditionally relied upon the voluntary decisions and actions of water utilities and water rights holders. Certain entities, including the San Antonio Water System and City of Austin and El Paso Water Utilities, have been models for water conservation action and have dramatically reduced per capita water consumption in their service areas, and some water providers in North Texas have notably expanded their water conservation activities in recent years. But other entities, including some of the largest wholesale and retail water providers in the state, have had, at best, minimal water conservation programs.
The more they have a sense of ownership of that source of supply, and the more likely they are to act to conserve that water supply. And so one of the challenges we face in Texas is to continually increase Texans' understanding of the source of their water and the reason for protecting that water source.
Given the challenging situation that Texas has found itself in as a result of drought and population expansion in recent years, and given future projections, it would seem prudent for the Texas legislature and state agencies to take a more proactive role in facilitating, supporting, and, where necessary, consider directing water utilities and certain water rights holders to take action to advance water conservation to meet our state's water needs.
How do we educate people on what the true cost of that infrastructure is, and getting them convinced that they should support funding, paying a little bit more for water to fund some of these infrastructure projects that need to happen. So really, I see that as a tremendous challenge.
One of the things that everybody looks for is that quick fix. Water conservation, what we have found, is a generational item. You're not going to fix it today, you're not going to fix it tomorrow, you're not going to legislate it. It's going to take generations.
The better we understand where our water comes from, the more we will value it, and the more inclined we will be to conserve and protect it. We can do better.
Uiwa laogades, uiwa hamajajades. Water didn't know what to do. He made a little boat and came down the river, to the place where the water was drawn, to the place where the girl drew water. Hokti uiwan akeles. The woman dies in Uiwa. It's oceanic, I said, what was lost, when I told her. Our first instructions were ways to speak water. Underwater, Uiledja, we were trying to find each other. Magdis, Mahogans, she said, it was said. We dove, green-finned, found land, scooped it up with our mouths to bring to the surface. Ak hijada, ak letkida, ak gizada, ak kosada.